announcement has been paid for by the Celtic World Order.
Hello there, good evening, welcome back to Celtic World Order podcast. As always, I'm Steve O'Matt and it's a pleasure to welcome you back here at the channel for another wee video as we break down some of the situation after and before the game actually on Sunday. As you can see, as always, joined with my bearded brother, but OG, my right hand man, it's Paddy Boy. Paddy, are you feeling any better after Sunday?
I am kind of coming round to it. Do you know what? Let them celebrate their 3 points, stick it in the trophy room beside the ceramics and the bike. They can deal with that. But yeah, listen, we'll kick on. We know we will. Brendan's away to Dubai and Daizen's out with an injury. That's a wee bit of a kick in the teeth, but we'll wait and see how they materialise.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll get round to that. There's a lot to chew over the fat, as it says there. You know what the tagline is here. Issues on and off the pitch. We're going to tackle it all head on. We're going to have a lot to talk about. So get your thoughts in and everything, the stuff that's come out, the statements from the fan groups, the statement from the club. And obviously, if you have any other thoughts still about that game, Winger, let us know. But before we do that, and before we get right in about it, as always, a wee bit of housekeeping. Just says, welcome back to the channel. To everybody watching, if you're a returning subscriber, thank you very much. Really appreciate the continued support. Great numbers added there at the weekend. Obviously, people were feeling generous, wanting to support us. If you're new, welcome. Hit the subscribe. It costs you nothing to do that. Helps us out, grows the channel. If you like what you're seeing here, get the wee thumbs up. If you want to go mental, share it. Tell a friend, get more people in. You can support the channel, member sections, a wee donation helps put all this together. And there's plenty off you, and we really appreciate it. The original 420. We've also got San Fran in the house as a member. And of course, there is plenty more. We'll get McLaughlin in there as well. So thank you to our members for your continued support as well. Get us on X at CWPod1888. And you can get us TikTok, Blue Sky, everywhere else. Spotify, on the move. Loads of way to do it. So, Paddy, everybody, strap yourselves in because there's a lot to unpack. Let's just do it. Let's go straight in. Let's go head in. Let's talk about the stuff that actually, to be honest with you, on Sunday after watching the game, I was completely unawares about it. I spoke to you after we did the show when you jumped on the last minute, and I spoke to you yesterday, and it turns out that you actually seen some of this stuff with the fans when you were going to the game with our mate John, and it's interesting. So we can get a wee first-hand thing with you. In case you've been sleeping under a rock, in case you don't know what's happened, this is all to do with the ultra fan groups. I believe it affected the UB, the GB and the boys. There was a police presence and there was police powers, government powers that are allowed to be used with the police that were put in place regarding stopping, searching, taking off masks and stuff like that. It caused a bit of a stushy, and it would appear that off the groups, the GB didn't get in, although you did say it looked like the standing section was fairly still full. Though, as we know, there's people in the standing section that aren't in the GB. So that is what it is. So, Paddy, first of all, foremost, these statements that came out, we've got them here. The GB one's 4 pages, but we'll read the first 2 bits because the rest we can just paraphrase. I've done a wee bit of digging. I found a statement that the police released in relation to it and other things. So we'll do all that. There's going to be a lot of information on you. Let us know what your thoughts are on it. We'll try and get as many in. So, Paddy, first and foremost, what's your thoughts, just broadly speaking, what we've been seeing over the past day or so?
I think there's a lot of stuff that's come out that should be fully understood before it's before they're shouting about it. As you said, mate, I was there. I seen the presence and stuff like that. I seen what was happening. I arrived quite early because I was going to go to the Kerrydale for a pint. As you all know, I enjoy a wee pint, so I was going to nip in there. But it was pretty busy. So I thought, you know what I'll do? I'll walk round to one of the pubs. And as I'm walking round, I noticed that the Union Bears had been secured over at the Emirates.
Right.
There was a hell of a lot of police in there. And they surrounded them, basically, just penned them all in. Rightly so, in my opinion. You're
going to say that when we get on to your side? Are you going to say that?
Not. I won't say that when we got on to your guys. But yeah, listen, they penned them in there. And they were instructing them stuff. Union Bears said nothing. There was no noise coming for him. There was nothing. It was just all silent, which I found quite strange. So I thought, you know what I'll do? I'll walk round and I'll have a wee look and see what's happening with the GB. So I walked up the road towards the supporters.
I think when I spoke to you, you went up, you wanted to see the procession. I think you were
Yeah,
about an hour
I
or so
wanted to
before
come up and
kick-off.
just see. Join in a wee bit, get a bit of crack, you know what it's like, set the flares,
Bit of
that
atmosphere.
and stuff, and get in the mood for the game. Walking up there, we noticed straight away that there was a lot of police presence, and getting up towards it, it was getting louder. The GB were singing and shouting and things like that, as they do, making a lot of noise. The police presence had again surrounded them, basically.
We've seen these pictures. Was it right outside the supporters club then?
Yeah, pretty much right outside, mate. They basically stopped them from heading up towards the stadium. There was, I don't know what you call him, he's a police sergeant or one of the top dogs in there. He's got the big megaphone thing, trying to shout orders at them and tell them what was going on, what was happening. But the GB in their normal attitude that they have, they were singing over them, they were shouting, just doing what they do, singing their songs. And
how was the actual atmosphere? Obviously, you said they're in good voices. You'd imagine they're out there, they're doing their thing. Did it look like there was any trouble to you from either side?
No.
Was there any hassle for the post? Was there any hassle for the supporters?
Not really, no. I mean, the police presence was there. There was a lot of police, probably more than I've ever seen. There was more police than there was people in the GB. You're talking, I've seen the numbers, Steve, the numbers said there was about 200, didn't it?
We'll bring that up, as I say. We'll cover it. I've got a wee first section of 2 pages. We'll skim through that, and then obviously we'll get, because obviously we want to look at this and talk about it. And to be honest, I want to go. It's a bit of a contentious subject. You can never win when you want to talk about these things, particularly when it's your own fan groups. But I want to try and come at it from a kind of objective standpoint. As I've said a million times, whether it's about the board, whether it's about the players, performances, it would be easier for us to just sit here and turn around and support everything that's Celtic and say this, that, and just throw red meat to the crowds. But we want to try and have a grown-up debate about it, if that's possible. So let's see. But anyway, on you go, mate. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Like I was saying, the police really, really outnumbered them. At least 2-1, I would say. And the Green Brigade were singing, they were making their noise, doing what they do. There was no trouble. There was nothing really kicking in. But I just thought, you know what, there's too many police here. I'm not going to get involved. So we went back up towards the pub, jumped into, I can't remember the name yet. The one that's just before you get to the corner. I can't remember what one it is. It's just next to the car park. I knew one of the bouncers on the door. Used to work with him years ago. So he let me squeeze in, so we jumped in there, got a quick pint, and then walked around to the stadium. So yeah, it was just a bit of fun before the game. But I had no idea that they weren't going to let anybody in at that point, because I thought they'd just secured the Union Bears, because obviously there was a lot of Celtic fans still getting in.
Obviously, it's the first. I mean, it is the first time there. The first time that there's been 2,400. So I suppose there was always going to be a lot of cops out, wasn't there?
Oh, 100%. As McLaughlin says in the chat there as well, the police have went gunning for them because of what happened the day of the cup final and stuff. When you think about it, people running about the streets and chasing people up Argyle Street and things like that. I mean, it's always going to cause a bit of animosity, isn't it? It's always going to have that. So I think the police presence, was it granted? Yes, no. It is a strange one. I think
I suppose
there was going to be a backlash.
It's one of these ones, isn't it? I can understand and I can see, I've seen various comments, people are saying, what a waste of money and all that. I get it, right? Yeah. I get it. Do football fans get treated to a different standard? I would say compared to rugby, or, you know, thousands of people go and watch the golf. I know, listen, the golf, snore and all that, right? I get the jokes, but there's loads of sporting events that attract thousands and thousands of people to them, right? Do football fans get treated differently? I would honestly say absolutely, like even from my observations. But again, if I look at it from an adult standpoint, I would say, well, why is that? Well, generally speaking, there's a lot more trouble at football. It's a lot more sort of like rivalries, and it's a lot more sort of draconian, and it's territorial and all that kind of stuff. And there's been that ultra culture as far back as the 80s and all that kind of stuff, and running fights. There's always been that propensity to have violence and disorder and all that kind of garbage to go with football that you don't get with other sports. So I get it. Do you know what I mean? I do get it, and probably as a result of that, you're going to have a lot more cops shooting the ground, aren't you?
Yeah, 100%, mate. Listen, I go to the rugby games as well. Obviously, not a lot of people know this, but I coach rugby on a Sunday morning. And I go to a lot of the Scotland rugby games. So going towards them, you drink when you're in the stadium. There's 70,000 people in Murrayfield. You're sitting there watching the rugby with the same fans. Like, I've been at Scotland England games and the England fans sitting beside me. You're sitting getting a drink. They cheer when England get a try. We cheer when Scotland get a try. It's different. Do you know what I mean? It's a different mentality. You couldn't imagine that at a football game, like having the Scotland and England fans in, or the Celtic Rangers fans, God forbid, do you know what I mean, on the same side. It would be absolutely madness. So yes, the hooligan element of the football side has finally got some repercussions. They were told about flares, they were told about political movements and banners and things like this. This is a backlash from it, and yes, I can see the GB's point of it, but I can also see the other side of it as well a little bit. But
do you know what? Let's get into it. Let's have a wee look at it. We'll sift through it. Keep your thoughts come through as we say, look, I know it's easier said than done, right? Let's try and have a wee objective conversation about this, right? Because as I say, listen, it's kind of one of the ones. I always feel that you're damned if you do and damned if you don't, right? But let's have a look at both sides, what's been put out there, because there's a lot of stuff that's been put out. And as you'd expect, there's discrepancies, there's differences there, right? So anyway, I'll put up the first, I'll read through it, I'll try and skim through it as quick as I can. It's only the first two parts of the GB statements. I says it's 4 pages long. I kind of roughly know what the second part of it, but I want to try and read off. So they've called it fan repression. Yesterday there was a premeditated attack on football supporters by Police Scotland. We believe that their actions are unlawful and currently taking legal advice. The actions of the police should serve as a stark warning to football supporters in Scotland, anyone that values civil liberties. 10 a.m, Green Brigade and other supporters congregated at the social club as routine. At that time, there was a considerable presence, as you said, Paddy. At no point was there any attempt from police officers to relay information about concerns or expectations on how fans should move to the stadium. Similarly, no attempt to share information in advance through mutual channels like the club, which is often the case. It then goes on to say at 10:45, they attempted to depart. At this point, around 200 people were kettled on the road, and they're told that had been held until the away supporters went into the stadium. The then went on to say after about an hour, they informed that they'd been detained under Section 60 of the Public Order Act, and the reason given was people concealing their identities, despite, in their words, the fact that most were not wearing masks. This was pointed out, and the concern moved to hats, hoods, glasses, and we offered to remove these items, but apparently they're saying it wasn't accepted. They then go on and say, in the second part here, that in order to leave the kettle, these were the expectations, including everybody down to children. Submit to the detention, be held by officers by the arms, taking out a further police cordon, a body search. I don't know what it means, including a refusal for privacy for females. I don't know if that means it didn't take people aside or whatever it is. Give your details, show verification of your details, ID or other, hats, sunglasses, scarves, nudes, etc. were to be taken off you, and this was all filmed. They then, at the bottom end, basically says that they were reluctant to comply with this, and therefore they were detained for almost 5 hours. So, in short, it sounds from that they were offered these terms. That'll get you out. You'll get down to the stadium. They decided on their own volition not to do it. And after the event, they got away. That says that there was no arrest at the material time. However, they were then later informed that they were going via a Police Scotland press release, which we'll bring up, that they were being reported to the Procurator Fiscal for an offence one way or another. They then go on and basically say that they're angry about this treatment. They talk about historical incidents of police involvement down the Gallowgate, etc. And they want to talk about a sort of reform or a reviewing of how engagement happens between clubs, authorities and supporters groups. So in terms of that there, Paddy, what you've read off that there, when you were there for the whatever period of time, I don't know how long you were down there.
Yeah.
What is that there? Is that an accurate depiction of what you saw, or what?
No, it's not. Like I said, there was a lot of police. There was a hell of a lot of police. I say probably at least 2 to 1 police-wise. There was about 80 people, I would say, between 80 and 100, not 200. There was nowhere near 200 people there. There was about 80 to 100 people surrounded. That's down at the GB bit. The Union Bears, there was probably 40 odd, 50 maybe. There wasn't a lot of them. The police officer, like I said, they said in that there was no communication. The guy was trying to communicate with him with one of the big megaphone things, but they were singing over the top of him.
So what, did
Searching-wise
you hear anything there? Because they obviously said that they weren't informed anything. What was that? Did you hear any of that communication that was trying to get put
I
out?
didn't really hear much of it. It was just stuff about stadium and stuff. You know what it's like through the things. It's quite muffled.
Right.
But listen, he's obviously going to be telling them instructions on how to behave so that they can get
Right.
access to the stadium and stuff, I'd imagine. So, it's a bit of a tough one when you think about it. Obviously, like I say, they're all got their snoods on and the scarves tied around their faces and everything as they do. Walking up there. Somebody asked what a snood is. It's basically like a hood that you pull over and it comes up to here. It's like a wee scarf thing that comes over your face.
You sometimes see a couple of foreign footballers when they don't like the cold coming over and they get snooded and gloves up there, you know.
Aye, exactly. Baram Kayal always had one on, didn't he? He was always running about it. Yeah, so like I said, you know what the GB turn up like. They all turn up with their Stone Island gear and their wee scarves tied around their faces and things like that. So they were all like that. So yeah, the stop and search thing, I never seen anybody getting searched. I never seen any stuff like that. I heard the noise, like they were singing, like I said. Union Bears were quiet. There was nothing for them. Whether that was them being compliant or not, then
I'm just trying to find some information. So that's interesting. So just for the benefit, I've got this here. I'm going to read this off here. So they're saying that they were detained under Section 60. I've done a wee Google search here. So it says here that Section 60, the Criminal Justice and Public Order Act 1994, will allow police to stop and search people in vehicles without reasonable suspicion, but only when a senior officer believes a risk of serious violence and or weapons or other items, prohibited items being carried in a specific area. So that's essentially what it says under there. Now, as it came on early to the comments there, I can't remember who it was. Somebody said that they think that this was generally to do with off the back of what happened before the cup final. We saw the running battles. People were calling it the Santa Dash, and it was GB and the Green Brigade were clashing, right? So I think it's fair to say, if we look at it again, try to be adults about it and objective, that with that happening and this being the first time that there's going to be 2,400 away fans at Celtic Park, is the balance of probability that there was going to be some level of disorder, violence or whatever, is it there? And has that been obviously what's caused this legislation to be put in place? To my reading, at least, it sounds like that way. Yeah. And as you mentioned that as well. It's one of these ones. See whether you agree with it or you don't agree with it. I think it's fair to say that there's an assumption that there could be there. That's not to say that it's going to happen, but as it says in that sort of bit of legislation that I read out, it's the potential, the suspicion, the belief that it could happen. Do you think that's fair ground for whatever that was to get put in place with the council or whoever it was that makes these decisions?
There was a big presence. I'm going to say that. I think there was maybe an over presence of police, if that's possible. But I do think there was always going to be a backlash from the chasing the Union Bears down Argyle Street and stuff like that. I mean, we spoke about it before and we'd said, obviously, can you imagine a member of your family's in there? Like, obviously, I've got young kids. If my wife was in Glasgow with one of my younger kids and you see all of these people getting chased up Argyle Street and stuff, you've seen the video with the woman trying to come out of Fraser's and she's like kind of bombarded back in and the security actually take her away and things to like sit her down and stuff like that. It's horrible to see. And yeah, everybody, all the other people are looking at it going, it's a laugh and it's a joke and blah, blah. And the runaway bears and whatever else they were called, the Santa Dash, like you called it.
Yeah.
That's all fun and games, but it must have been terrifying for some people that were there. So you can see that side of it for the police presence thing. But listen, there was a lot of police there. Do I think it was a good idea for them to impose this at this game? Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was the right time to do it or the right way to do it. I don't know. Listen, I'm not.
Well, as it says, for the balance here, I've pulled up, but this is what the Green Brigade were talking about. They says they found out about charges against some of their members or all of their members, whoever was in that containment. So I'm going to quickly read this out. This is what the police released. It says, a group of 90 people, most of whom had concealed identity, were denied entry to Celtic Park after refusing to be searched by officers under Section 60 powers, which is what we just read out there on match day. It was the opinion of officers that they posed a threat to safety of people within the stadium and to the public due to the possibility of weapons and pyrotechnics. Whilst the group was contained, pyrotechnics were disposed of and set off, causing a fire. Did you see that? Were you there at that point? No.
Seen a flare getting set off when I was walking away at that time. You hear the kind of pop off at the.
Aye.
You heard the pop and you look back and somebody's holding a flare up. Do you know what I mean?
It then goes on, says endangering both public and officers. Thankfully, nobody was injured. Around 90 people were reported to Procurator Fiscal in relation to controversy in Section 60. So we read out what they told us the terms were. I don't know if that's because they didn't do that, or I know they eventually did. I don't know the ins and outs of that, but that'll be interesting to see how that comes out. As part of the wider policing operation, there was an arrest at the match. 20-year-old man was arrested and charged for police assault on approach to the stadium. He was released and undertaking to appear at court. A second man, 46, subject to Procurator Fiscal for allegedly possession of pyrotechnic. And then there's a quote for one of the officers involved, I think maybe the leader, somebody. Again, the vast majority of fans were simply there to enjoy the match and thank them for the good conduct. It was necessary to apply containment tactics to maintain public safety and deal effectively with those intent on disruption or non-compliance with relevant legislation in place, including the powers under Section 60 of the Public Order Act. As a result, some groups of supporters missed the game, but that was their choice. As it says in their statement, they were given the terms, they didn't do it. So again, a grey area where you agree with it or not. They could have earlier probably done it and got to the game, but they chose not to. Our priority has always been the safety of fans in and around the stadium, the general public and the wider city. To support that, the enforcement of Section 16 legislation was undertaken proportionally with search powers and enacted in a targeted manner. Non-compliance to Section 60 resulted in 90 people being reported. Others have been arrested or reported for various offences, including assault on a police officer. A significant number of pyrotechnics were seized and prevented from getting into the stadium, which demonstrates the disregard that some supporters have for the safety of others. We'll continue to work with partners, including the clubs, to improve safety in order to ensure that sporting events is a real focus. That's what it says. So there's some slight differences. The GB one says 200, that says 90.
I say about 80.
And you say about 80 of that. So again, what do you think of that one there, mate?
What's a 46-year-old man doing with a flare? You get a grip of your life, mate. Do you know what I mean? What's the deal with that? It is what it is, and the police presence, like I said, was a lot. But what sort of people are in the GB if they're not going to just go, right, you know what, there's a chance I'm not going to get to this game? Like, I'd have done anything to get into that game yesterday, do you know what I mean? Give or take, you know what I mean? But, it was a big game, and the first time their fans were going to be there and things like that, and it's a great atmosphere. It's good, do you know what I mean? It's one of the ones that you want to be at. So I don't understand why you wouldn't comply at that point, why you wouldn't. So, I mean, what have you got to hide? If you've got flares and stuff, just go, do you know what, mate, here, take your flares. I just don't understand that. Unless, like, maybe the police were right then. Maybe it was the thug culture. Maybe they've got...
So, again, I've been trying to come at this to a level. I've been having a wee look around right now. What I wanted is interesting. I looked at the GB one and it says they weren't informed and there was no prior hangway.
Yeah.
I searched for... Again, to get the legislation thing, I've been searching and I searched Section 60, I searched police, and I actually came up with a publication for the police 3 days ago saying that this was going to happen. So at that end, it's been put out there. And again, you can search it and it will come up. I'm trying to find it, but I've got that many tabs open, and it says 3 days ago. So what? Sunday, even if it came out Saturday or Sunday, it was put out.
Yeah.
And again, you says that there was people down there. I wasn't at the game. I've not got a clue. I'll just take your word for what you saw. But I have got to imagine if it says that they were filming it and they were doing that, then I don't know. But you'd like to think, and that's I like to think, take that as you find it. But surely if they're filming it, they're not going to tell you why you're there. Does that make sense? Because if they're eventually going to maybe charge somebody or that's technically that proves their point, doesn't it? If it's on film. So I don't know. It just seems a bit unlikely that they didn't tell them.
The big guy with the megaphone, like I said, he was there. He was shouting the bit off. He was trying to get their attention. But in classic GB style, they sung their songs and they sung them loud. And it's what they do, isn't it? It's like, you're not going to control us. You're not the boss of me, and they'll sing away. But there definitely was somebody there trying to tell them basically what to do. And listen, whether you listen or not is a different.
Well, I mean, it's pretty clear as we say. So, like the GB thing is what it is, right? Obviously, you saw the the UB, and we saw the boys were in. 10 years of the boys. So again, we saw the big banner actually that the GB had, and it was congratulations 10 years. 10 years of that. And again, in terms of adding colour and passion and stuff to stadium, brilliant job. So
that was classic, nice to see.
Well done to him. And I like to be Tifo. I like the Tifo the hang with for their 10 year that unveiled. But so they get in. And the UB get in. So it's pretty clear that despite the way that I'll maybe see that, because we're just focusing on the stuff that's been put out and saying this is just the GB, this is just us, blah blah blah. It clearly wasn't. It was clearly all in any ultra groups that have been there. The other two, maybe in your way you were thinking, I do anything to get to that game, decided to just sort of give up the ghost and say, well, I want to get there. And gave into whatever the terms, submitted their details or took off their face mask or whatever. So in terms of this, where are you with this in terms of, is it making a statement? Is it cutting your nose off to spite your face? What do you think, mate?
I'll talk firstly about the Union Bears, because they were, like I said, they were compliant, they were quiet. And then about 5 minutes before the game kicked off, they come parading in as they do, making a lot of noise, and they actually pulled down one of the netting things as well. It was at the side. It was
so what one? Because there was two. What one was that? And how did they manage to get back up? By the way,
going towards the main stand. So
right. So how did they manage to get back up? Because I mean, it's a fairly big thing, mate.
It's massive, mate. They never put that one back up. They kept it down because they pulled it down, and then it got basically folded up and pushed away right down to the front of the stadium. That happened like pretty much just before the game's about to start. Then obviously when you seen them coming in, I thought, right, we'll get the GB in pretty soon then. And I honestly thought they were in because there was a bit of noise coming for there. It wasn't as chaotic as it normally is, but it looked pretty full. But yeah, I think if you're going to be compliant, like the UB obviously have been, they got in.
Yeah.
The GB, I don't know whether they've had anything to hide, but yeah, it's a bit like biting off your nose to spite your face. It seems a wee bit like that. Aye.
I mean, there's loads of opinions coming in here. Let us know what you think. As you say, obviously, if I'm going to bring up comments, please, where possible, try and keep it, sensible. We're not going to put up anything that's too out there or that. I'll just say that straight now. We want to try and have an adult conversation about this, right? So, where I'm at, I mean, Strange Love is saying this, and everybody's entitled to their opinion. There's going to be strong opinions. I personally don't agree with that. That's just me. We've looked through the details. It appears that they've told them why it is, and as we say, it's based off of what's happened in December before the cup final, with the extra amount, with that tensions, they maybe want to get revenge and all that. The reality is the chances of it happening or trouble brewing between the two fan groups was probably at its peak. It's been for a long time, right? So the redneck getting chased down the street and the fighting or whatever happened in the city centre that day, you can imagine that gives you justification, reasoning, whatever term you want to put on it, to say this is likely to happen. How do we combat it? We do this. So it's obviously had to get passed by the councils. I don't know if the clubs have been involved, by the police or whoever it is that puts these decisions together. But it's been put out there, it's been made known, and I get it. A lot of people say it's persecution, and as I said previously at the start there, do I think there's a higher level of sort of like policing or, you know, stewarding on football fans versus, yes, there is. But again, it's because of these ultra groups on it. Just to bring it back and talk about behaviours and stuff, right? A lot of folk, some folk have said that they think that it's a case of it's every action will have a reaction.
Yes.
So in other words, look what happened in December. What did you think was going to happen, right? And again, that's just, people might not like that, but I can kind of understand that. Now, what I would say is, and a few folk have said it, and I'll bring us up for Stevie, who says he's been going to Celtic Park nearly 40 years, never been searched, never been spoken to, never been charged, never been kettled. Likewise, myself, I'm about to turn 40 next month. I've been to games for as long as I can remember. I've had no interactions with the police. I've seen people getting interactions with the police. I've never personally seen anything that I'd consider to be over the top or brutal. I've seen folk getting tickets for swallowing and pissing and shit like that. I've seen a couple of running folk, like running down and getting chased. I've seen all that garb. I've never seen anything mental is what I'm getting at, and I've never experienced it first hand, so I can't speak it. But what I would say is, and I don't mean any offence here, but I go to games, I don't cover my cooting. I'm no masked up, I'm no part of big groups, and whatever your thoughts on being part of a group or a fan group or an ultra group or whatever it is, it comes back to what you says. If you're in town, if you remove yourself as a football fan and you've seen what happened in town, if that was your missus walking down the street with a wee one, the buggy or whatever, and 100 guys and or men, women, whatever it is, because you can't tell under the masks, all dressed the same, with masks rocking up, run down the street chasing each other, it's fair to say that's intimidating, and it's probably fair to say that that's going to be frightening. I mean, if it's you or I walking down the street, we'd probably go, what the fuck's going on here? What, I watch that, and we'll watch it. But I can get that the Joe Public that haven't got any skin in the game, don't care for football, don't care for, you know, supporters groups or whatever, that even though people laugh at that, it probably will to some people be quite intimidating. And and what you said, and I kind of, I kind of agree that within reason that I'm not saying that every person that was in that containment was involved in what happened in the city centre.
You get shot with the crows, mate.
Well, I suppose, but the chances are that a large proportion of them may well have been, right? They may well have been involved in that. And again, as you said there, you said the word, you fly with the crows, you get shot with the crows. It's kind of like whenever we've seen the closures, park closures, the stadium, I don't know how many folk are in the game. Maybe somebody can educate me. What is there, 500, 600? I don't know. But that sighting section's a couple of thousand. But the actions that they may have been penalised for affects everybody else. So likewise, if part of their contingent or group, whatever, has been involved in running battles in the town, then this is the knock-on effect. So I don't know, mate. I don't know. It's, as I say,
listen, half an hour earlier, Steve, I would have been in there. I'd have been down with them. Do you know what I mean? I went down to obviously come up with the GB, have a bit of crack, bit of singing songs, getting myself in the mood. So half an hour earlier, mate, I might have been detained in that wee bit. I'm like yourself. I've never been searched. I've never been approached by any police on the way to Celtic Park or anything like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think the reality is I'm seeing a lot. I'm trying to flick through it, so bear with us. As I say, I'm finding it. There's a lot of swaying different reactions in here. Some people are thinking, do you know what? It's completely out of order. It's over the top. And Gary's saying here, I'll let you, if you want to sort of reply, he's saying you're missing the point that Gary believes that fans are being criminalised at the game. He's saying, who are the posts? Who do they think they are? It's an nanny state. But as I say,
again, we've touched on that. We've touched on why that happened.
It's not easy for us as fans, and you know, just sitting and looking at it completely through our prism to say, how dare legislation be put in place with the police and the council or whoever it is that grants the permission for us to go down. How dare they do that? But then again, as I says, there isn't any smoke without fire. Now, I'm not saying, I don't want this to be misconstrued, I'm not saying that they were going to cause trouble. I'm not going to say that there were going to be fights. But as we say, on the balance, it may be happening. You can see how it's probably been agreed and passed. So, as you say, it's like we look at some of the stuff that happens, the fighting, the pyro, whatever, spray painting full trains and all that. It's like every action will have a reaction. And sometimes there's collateral damage where unfortunately other people get affected for that. People are, look, the train getting spray painted, it's brilliant. But the reality is, who's probably going to end up paying for that? It'll be like you and I, because the tickets will go up and all that, you know what I mean? So as I say, it's one of these ones, you're on a hiding to nothing. There's going to be 1,000,001 opinions on it and you're never going to win. The reality is, what do we need to do, Paddy? Because we've seen Hibs have come out and they've put out, their ultras have put and says, we get similar with a derby against Hearts and it's going too far. Is this about engagement with the police, the council, the clubs and the fan groups? Now, this is obviously going to be a real sticky one, because whether people feel it's justified or not, the vast majority, if not all, fan groups are anti-authoritarian. They don't want to engage with the police. But at the same time, if you want to try and improve that relationship, then should you not be trying to do that?
Yes, I do believe that that's probably the only way that we're going to get around it, is if you sit them all down and say, right, listen, this is what happened. And I'm not going to tell you how to be a fan. Nobody's going to be able to tell us how to support our club. But there's ways of approaching these things. There's ways of going to games and enjoying it. I mean, I've been going to see Celtic for 40 years. I still enjoy it. I've never been in any trouble or anything like that. I've never been in any of these daft groups or whatever. Listen, they bring an incredible spectacle to Celtic Park. They make noise. They're great for the club. They do a hell of a lot of amazing stuff. As do the UB for Rangers and the Hibs casuals and whatever else. Listen, it's class when you see it all. But there is that thug culture associated with it. And that's what you need to try and rectify. Now, the clubs have tried sanctions, they've tried fines, they've tried everything. But it just doesn't seem to be getting across.
I mean, Paddy, I'm you're in danger of sounding like a crabby old fucker, right? I know. I'm trying to make light of it, as I say. I'm genuinely trying to make light of it, because I understand, as I say, listen, we're Celtic fans, we're passionate, we love it, and we've said time and time again, see the atmosphere, the displays, all that raw, visceral passion that the supporters groups bring you. All here for it. It's brilliant. Sounds amazing. Drives on the team. Some of the displays are phenomenal. There's a lot of brilliant stuff that the GB do. The social awareness stuff. The charitable work's amazing. The food bank collections are so much there. I just maybe it is because I'm old, right, and I'm old fashioned, maybe born right, but I genuinely can't dial my head into the ultra culture. I just can't, right? I just can't get it. I understand. I don't believe that it makes you merely a supporter if you're in that, and less if you're not, or less a supporter if you don't get it or don't agree with it. Do you know what I mean? But it's like, and I know people say you're missing the point, but see, you see it all the time, like the what's it they call it? Active service unit. They go abroad for scraps and all that, right? And you see it on that page, is at hooligans.z or something on X and that, right? And they film all the hooligans and all the ultra stuff and all the battles and tifos and all that, right? Again, maybe that's just lost on me, but that's wee guy patter, like, let's go over and arrange a fight and all that. Do you know what I mean? And like, let's go and spray paint a train. I just don't get it. So it's like that's going to have effects on you if you want to be part of that. Like, people will focus, or authorities and the club will, unfortunately for you, focus on the negative stuff that you're doing rather than the positives, and it'll tilt the balance, unfortunately, against your favour. So it's like, if you're part of a group that and you want to run about all dressed the same and you want to have your coupon covered, you don't expect that you're going to get stopped and maybe have a harder time going to the game. Am I sounding miserable here, mate? I don't know.
No, listen, I agree with you away as well, and in a way I don't. I think it's great what it brings to the club and things like that, and obviously so do you. Um, but I understand the culture side of it, and you can kind of see the difference there. And yeah, listen, they bring so much. So did the boys, and the banner that the boys put up was incredible. It was brilliant to see. Both sound like liberals. Aye, cheers, mate. Um, Listen, it is what it is. We're not here to say that we're any bigger fan than anybody else.
Uh,
We're a fan the
no,
same as the rest of
no,
us.
as
And
we
that's
say,
what
and
it is.
listen,
We're
it
giving
jump,
our
just
opinion on
jump
it.
in, jokes aside, as you say, like everybody, we want to bring up all the opinions here. If you've got it, ones that are slating, ones that are on side, ones that are against, ones that are on the fence, as it says. One thing that I will say is, right, and hopefully this comes across anytime you watch us, we always try to be objective about things, right?
Yeah,
As I say a million times, it would be easy for us to just take the party line and say everybody's fucking out of order, like it's terrible. Like the Green Brigade have never done anything bad in their life. Because it's not true. Like we're just
yeah,
trying to be objective. We're not trying to be highbrow. We're just trying to not trying to be highbrow or hanging. We're just trying to be objective and look at it through all aspects and try and make sense of it. Because it would be easy for us to just turn around and say it's fucking out of order. How dare this and that? But as we say, we've looked at for all the brilliant stuff they do enough stuff that ain't, and not just the GB. This isn't just about the GB. This is the UB, by the way, as well, because they were involved in it as well.
yeah,
This is the boys. I don't know what the other fucking Rangers ultra groups, if there is any other ones that are called, but any of these ultra groups, generally speaking, for all the stuff that they do, there's an unsavoury element, as there isn't any support, and that's obviously going to get focused on, and with that will come consequences. So I just find it a wee bit surprising that they seem surprised when something happens.
yeah. Like I said about the presence of the police, though, like I kind of agree with Gary a little bit there, and he's saying there was no need for all the police. I did feel quite. I'm not going to say intimidated, but I felt like there was an awful lot of police presence there, and I don't know whether I can say that was justified. Obviously, like that, what, Section 60 was it you said, whatever that was.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, they've had that in place and they've expected a lot of trouble.
Mhm. I
So
mean,
obviously that's why
needless to say, nothing happened.
nothing happened. A couple
Nothing
of
happened,
arrests,
and that's
like
it.
you said,
Obviously,
pissing in the
the
street or whatever.
pyrotechnics thing happened, but here's the thing to bring this round, rather than us just talking broadly about it. Do you believe the club put out a very wishy-washy statement, to put it lightly? The fan liaison officer was up there, as says in the GB statement as well, that he was up there for pretty much the duration of it, having
Yeah,
dialogue between them, the police, and whatever, and trying to make sense of it all. And he's saying that he's reporting back the facts of what he saw. The club have then come out with a very wishy-washy of, we're aware of this, we're looking at it. What do you expect out of the club for this? What do you think should happen?
um, I think the club will stand with the GB in a way, but I don't think they'll put out anything that's going to put their position with the police in it. Do you know what I mean? They're going to have it's going to be one of these statements that says, yeah, we're fully aware and we support the GB for the support that they give us. However,
Mhm.
we understand the actions of Police Scotland or something. It'll be something along the lines.
Right?
Um, uh, and they'll mention in there like the other fan groups and whatever. But I don't think it'll be a controversial one, if that makes sense. I don't think they'll come out and do like 420 says. They pretty much do hee-haw. They will put out a statement, I
Mhm.
believe, but it'll
Is it
be one
just
that
for
covers
lip
both.
service?
Yeah,
No, I think the biggest thing that a lot of the fans are turned around saying, and particularly the ultra groups, is that they're a commodity to them when it suits. So as we say, is like big tifo, big print, the store and all that kind of stuff, and
yeah,
they like to wheel them out and highlight some of the, well, not some, but predominantly the stuff that they really like, that's savoury or whatever, and they bring all that out when it suits. They cut the cloth when it's in their benefits, but whenever there's something that they don't like, they seem to turn their back on it. Do we need
yeah,
do we need stronger engagement between the club and the fans groups to sort of, I don't know, try and thrash out what they expect. Because I don't know, was it quite recently or a season or so ago that when there was the closures, that they had to agree to like a almost like a terms and
An
conditions or
amnesty
something?
kind of thing. Aye, kind of.
Oh, it was something like that, where they says, "Aye, these are what we will do, and this is what we won't do." Listen, there's never, you're never. The reality is, you can't really control fans. Fans will, do what they want to do. I think that the controlling them is not really possible. But again, do you think, and it's highly unlikely, do you think that there needs to be a sort of around the table thing where like the council, the police, a representative, whether that's somebody in the fan groups or a person that they send in their behalf that isn't actually connected, obviously for their identity purposes, not, is that something that needs to happen? There
If
needs
they
to be
need that
more
to happen,
engagement.
then I know a guy, Paddy Boy, that's on a podcast that'll step in and go for it. Listen, I think something needs to be done with the club. I think they need to sit down with a representative, like you said, of the GB. I don't know whether the council and the police need to get involved at this stage. Well, they're probably already involved, but I think if the club put out something to them and said, listen, this is what we would tolerate.
Yeah. I mean,
I
there's what
think
Gary said.
players kind of,
Gary's putting some good points, and he's been one that he's been throwing out loads of different opinions. He's very sort of pro the fans, rightfully so. That's his thing. But he is saying there that he thinks that some sort of sit down. I think that's going to be the hardest, the stumbling block, is it not? Because there's a real distrust amongst the fans with the board, and certainly with the police. Listen, I think it's fair to say that they're very anti-establishment. They do that whole pig watch thing and all that. And there's been a real sort of butting of heads for years, as long as I can remember, with the support groups and the authorities and stuff. Is that something is that likely? Would do entertain it, or do you think for the greater good, it's something that they might want to consider?
I don't think they would even consider it. You look at the attitude of what's happened, and obviously they've been detained there, and they've been asked to do a few simple instructions: remove your masks, let's search you. I know it's a freedom thing and whatever else, and everybody's entitled to their own rights. And I'm sure people will quote to the police, as you've seen everybody do as well. You're not entitled to do this to me because of such and such, and blah 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 blah. But I do believe, listen, if you've not got anything to hide, get it done and get yourself up to the game. There's 60,000 fans.
Do you think, Paddy, that there's maybe a fear? Certainly, there's a distrust. Do you think there's maybe a fear among the supporters too, even if they are complying with something lawfully, that they are thinking that's going to get held against me? I'm going to be in a file somewhere, and I'm going to be singled out. Do you think that's why there's that?
Well, there will be people there, mate. There will be people that are looking out in bail, or that are, do you know what I mean, that have got something hanging over them. There's always going to be people like that aren't going to want to give their details to the police, let's be honest. And if you're one of the people, then fair play, like stand your ground and do what you've got to do. But I don't know where it ends. Like San Fran saying there, wise up, Paddy, where does it end, mate? Listen, I don't know where it ends. I really don't. I don't think it will. I don't think it will end. You're never going to control this thug culture. You're never going to control this.
I mean, is that fair to say that? Is that a sweeping statement there where you're calling it thug culture, as I say? Listen, and folk are joking, saying, you sound like liberals, or you sound like this and that. But I know we probably sound like money old men, but as I say, listen, let's not misconstrue what we're saying. We're trying to have a debate about this. We have come on here countless times and really sang the praises of the GB for all the great things they do, all the charity stuff, definitely the noise, the atmosphere and stuff. And I guess it's just that it will be a divide. I don't know what the average age of somebody in the GB is, but I can probably assume that it's significantly younger than you or I, or maybe a lot of people that are viewing here. Maybe they've had, before getting involved in football, maybe they've had bad experiences with authorities. I don't know, but it is what it is. They're very forward with what they're doing. They're going to be stuck in their ways there, and that's it. But it's really about finding a happy medium, because this can't keep happening all the time, can it?
No, that's it. And they're always going to be sanctioned for things that they do, whether that be, like you've said before, setting off pyro, arranging fights, putting up banners that are offensive to people. You've seen all the things, the sanctions that we've got for UEFA and fines and things like that. And Do you know what? The spectacle at Celtic Park's incredible. European nights are absolutely unbelievable. And the GB bring that. They bring that atmosphere, and they bring that wee extra bit. And I would hate to see them miss out, because when they were away, we struggled. I went to Celtic Park when the GB were there, and do you know what? There
Absolutely,
wasn't
man.
a lot of noise, mate.
Absolutely, man.
It wasn't a really nice place to be. So listen, they're an incredible group. They bring so much, but I just think that if they would step back a wee bit and kind of understand what the repercussions are going to be for what they do, then it'd be a hell of a lot better for them.
No, I think it's, as we said, we could go on and debate this and chew over the fat. Yeah, we're never going to bottom this one out, as we say. And the one thing is we can see for the comments and stuff is that there's never going to be a full agreement. There's no going to be a full agreement on it. As I says, I know, as you well know, a group with loads of Celtic supporters, Rangers fans and this and that, and see for every mates or people or acquaintances or whatever that I know that love everything that goes with the Green Brigade, there is some people that don't like it. It's no for them. It is what it is, isn't it? But as I say, I think the most important thing is we need to be able to we need to try and get some sort of sensibility around this, because it can't keep happening. And I would hate to see that happening all the time, because it'll probably just get more intense and it'll probably get worse. It'll probably give a reaction from the supporters groups where they might turn sour, and equally as well, it could mean more people at games. And again, as we say, is a knock-on effect where it affects wider people, where it could be Joe Public. Not that I'm splitting hairs to say if you're an ultra you should get searched, and if you're not, but what I mean is like more stringent searching for everybody getting into games and all that kind of stuff, and having an impact on it. So there's crap like that, isn't there?
Yeah, 100%, mate. There's always going to be stuff like that. I see we've got a wee infiltrator there as well. Sean, make sure you subscribe to the channel, pal. You've won the battle, you won't win the war, that's for sure.
Do you know what? It's good. I always like that, and we're not scared to bring up no Rangers supporting chats in here, because do you know what? If you want to sit down and watch a Celtic podcast, I'm absolutely brilliant. I love it.
Aye, I know we're the ones that are obsessed yet they're sitting watching us. That's how it is. But like we said, Steve, there's always going to be that aspect of it, but we just hope that there can be an outlay of it, an agreement of some sorts, and that we can get the fan base basically allowed into the stadium for a start. There's another game coming up, obviously, with our Glasgow derby once we do the split, which will be coming pretty soon. That'll be at Castle Grayskull, probably, won't it? But we won't obviously know, but it'll be down there. So I wonder if it'll be the same situation, whether they'll have that in place again. If they sanction it again, then I think it'll cause a hell of an uproar. I think it'll just be absolute carnage. Then you will see a bit of a backlash from it. I think there'll be a lot of push.
As we say, there's plenty of mileage in this. What I do find, and to just wind back where it says there that it says that in the statement for the GB that they were informed that they had been reported via that statement for the police that we read out there. That'll be interesting to see, because obviously if they weren't informed, then there's no real leg to stand on, is there? If they've not been informed, it's like it'd be like you or I turning up and getting a letter through the door saying, you've been, I don't know, you've been done for something, you didn't know anything about it. It's aye. So it'll be interesting to see how that one pans out, if that is the case. As I say, obviously we weren't there. You were there briefly and got out of Dodge because you didn't want to run the risk of that getting expanded and got up, Matt. But I think it'll be really interesting to see what happens at Ibrox as well. And I also think as well, coming back to the inside stuff, right? What was the atmosphere like inside? Because I know you weren't too far fair. And we saw the damage to the seats and stuff at the end. Listen, folk are moaning about that, right? I'm not saying it's right. It's par for the course. What do you think's going to happen, right? Chances are our fans will go to Ibrox and it'll happen there and all, right? But was there anything unsavoury inside the crowd, inside the netting that you saw, mate?
Nah, just the usual batter. You get the wee guys shouting across at each other and things like that, giving each other a bit of crack. It was It was all fun and games. Obviously, them going 2-0 up in the first half kind of silenced our crowd a little bit, and they were giving it big licks. But it was nice to obviously get it back a bit to 2 each, and then we started hounding them. But there wasn't really anything. I seen one guy getting ejected, one guy getting took out. I don't know what that was. I think he tried to launch something, and he got grabbed and brought down and took out with a couple of the stewards. But it is what it is. Do you know what I mean? It was nice to have the fans back in there. There wasn't much of much animosity in it.
Well, let's talk on. We'll do a wee bit. We'll finish this, and loving the amount of folk that are commenting. Let's keep it going.
Yeah.
Let me hear what you think of the next one, right? Big Cherny, what's the fuck's going on there? What's going on there? What is going on there? I didn't know what happened at the time. I just saw there was a wee skirmish and a bit of our fans getting at what to, and I seen him with that stupid laughing Coopham, and everybody's been lapping that up. Thoughts on that?
At the time, I didn't even notice it, mate. Obviously, when you're at the game, you're not watching it on TV. You don't see the reaction. We were too busy getting their heads in our hands after Igamani put that into the back of the net. Didn't notice it at the time. Obviously, come home and there's a lot of people saying on X and things like that, or Cherny spraying fans and whatever. And then I've watched it back. I've seen the clip.
This is a point that Paul's saying there. I mean, see if that was a fan that was going up to the player or a thing insulting name or whatever, chances are they're getting ejected and reported. Do you think this will? Do you think there'll be any legs in this? Do you actually see him?
I think
let's be honest here. It's no. He's not going to end up in court, is he? He might get, I don't know, a fine or something like that, right? But I think it needs to happen, doesn't it? I mean, it's
something needs to happen. I mean, something like that, regardless, could incite a riot. Do you know what I mean? Celtic got told to not celebrate too much in front of Rangers because it had the chance of inciting a riot. And like the Celtic players were told not to celebrate in front of the Rangers fans in case it incited a riot. And now you've got one of the Rangers players running along the sideline spraying water on Celtic fans.
Yeah,
that could incite a riot as well. Do you know what I mean? So for me, listen, it's only water at the end of the day, or it was an isotonic drink or whatever. It's not going to cause much damage. It's going to make them feel a bit sticky. Do you know what I mean? But you've seen the reaction of the fans. There was about 5 or 6 fans there actually trying to physically get onto the pitch to get to him. And they've been held back by stewards and police. Now, if they got a hold of him, it'd be a different story. Because they're going to melt him, and then they're going to.
That's what I was going to say. That is the thing. Is it might seem like shits and gigs and a wind up and being a wido and whatever, but the reality is like, as we well know, you don't know who's sitting in front of you or behind you, or you don't know who you're messing with. I mean, there quite possibly could have been somebody in there that, to put it bluntly, does not give a fuck and would happily take the jail for landing one on you.
Oh, aye.
And would probably be celebrated the world over by fans for doing it.
Aye. You've seen fans run on the pitch before. Somebody, remember the guy slapped Dida on the back of the head.
Like, even that, you look at that, I know that was pathetic, right? But that whoever that guy was became something like, not like a joke figure, but like a cult icon for a moment of madness.
Elbow Lenny in the head as well at the Hearts game or something. I'm
talking about that. I'm talking that hand, but I'm on about like if somebody were to have got Hodium or lamped him, right, we don't want to see it, right? Of course we don't. We don't want to see players doing shit like that to begin with, but we equally don't want to see our fans coming down and reacting to it. Although you could understand why somebody might have done that. But what I'm saying is that there'll probably be somebody that would have been happy to land one on him because, it'd probably be free drinks for them doing their boozer or whatever. They'd always be that guy that landed one on a player, even though it's something you completely don't want to see and is out of order and be going too far. As I'm saying, you wouldn't be surprised if it had happened, and he's probably lucky it didn't happen.
Aye,
because it would have kicked off. It could have genuinely have kicked off a proper skirmish at the side of that touchline.
Aye, and somebody was saying there as well. What happened with El Hadj? Do you remember he spat in the fan as well?
Yes, exactly. Yes,
he got fined for that, didn't he? He got a massive fine for that. They talk there as well about Boric. We've seen Boric stand there, but he get charged for blessing himself at Ibrox, didn't he? There's silly things. If you're going to get charged for blessing yourself, surely spraying water or an isotonic drink or whatever it was in front of somebody into their faces.
And that's the thing. Is this just, as we say, is this a sideshow? Is this a sideshow? Is this really something that would just be like, listen, this is absolutely garbage, by the way.
If it's a fan, they're barred for life.
Well, I'm assuming Typhon says that was my pal and he get banned. Is this the Dida thing you're talking about, mate? What was that, 2008 or something? Let us know.
Is that for the guy that slapped Dida in the back of the head? That was.
I say slapped. I think he brushed his face like
he kind of brushed his face, and then
Dida done one of the most riddest of rednecks ever, where he chased him. They went and followed in.
Oh, wow, yeah, he's
saying it is. Yeah, sir. There we go.
So, like we're saying, but Steve, see if a fan throws a cup of juice around a player, they're going to be ejected for the stadium. They're going to have repercussions. The police are probably going to charge you outside.
You're getting charged. You're probably getting a ban, aren't you?
Do you know what I mean? So, listen, I'm not saying they should have grabbed Cherny at that point and dragged him out the stadium and charged him. It's obviously not going to happen. He's on a football pitch. He's doing his job, and well, he wasn't. He was a sub at the time, wasn't he? But
yeah,
he's still there. He's part of that team, so you can't eject him for the stadium. But I think it's stupid behaviour. It's not took the shine off of the result for their fans, is it? Their fans are still giving it big likes. They think it's hilarious. Of course they do.
Yeah.
We've seen silly things happen before. Lustig took a police officer's hat and things like that. That was all done in jest. But
again, I think that's hijinks, isn't it? That's just there's a difference. That doesn't affect anybody other than that cop that gets a red neck for getting his hat stole. Do you know what I mean? There's a difference between you getting bloody well soaked because some idiot is not just that. Just to be, I'm being joking here. I don't want his slabbery juice on me. Do you know what I mean?
No, exactly, 100%, mate. You don't know what the guy's got. If he's playing for them, it's bound to be something contagious or fucking life-threatening.
And people are saying, by the way, like, I know it sounds petty, but it is technically assault. If you throw someone or whatever over somebody, it's considered to be an assault. So it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. As I say, I actually think, forget the fine thing. I would be looking for maybe a match ban equivalent to a red card or something for the SFA. And I know there might be Rangers infiltrators will laugh at that, but I'm just like, it's all about player conduct now. You can't be, players are getting bans and fines for giving the finger to people. Neil Lennon get banned for doing an aeroplane to fans on a pitch. So
that's right. Yeah.
You can't be doing that there. But listen, so that's one bit here. But I want to just come back. We'll wrap it all up. Talk about the game, right? Here's something I want to throw at you, Paddy. We sat here and we scoffed. We laughed at Rangers, right? Now, I'm going to stand by it, right? I'm going to stand by it. I said before the game that I would have been completely affronted, embarrassing if Celtic can't beat that team, right? Embarrassing. And I still stick by that. I was ashamed at the end of that. Harsh terminology, but I was. There's no way Celtic should be getting beat. I've rewatched the game. I know, I've rewatched the game, right? I just wanted to see it for my own self again and see if what I was believing I saw was there, right? Do I think Barry Ferguson's a joke? Yeah, I do. I genuinely still do. Despite getting through in Europe, despite beating us, I don't think he is the answer. I think it would be foolish and short-sighted of them to keep him on because I think it'd be like the Solskjaer thing. Does all right, gets people on side and chest pumping. Let's get him in, and then it just doesn't happen, right? I think he's too old school, too draconian, too, dare I say it, Neil Lennon. It's all about fire and brimstone and passion, and that wears off. You can't go to that well for so long, right? Whatever. But are Celtic too nice? When I watched that game back, do you know what I feel won that game for them? The dark arts, right? Yes, as much as I hate to say it, got to give them credit. They bullied us at times, they pressed us hard, and they got on with it, right? But see the things that get into your head. Every time they get a free kick, we get a free kick, DaizenMaeda was booting the ball away, right?
Yeah.
Their players winding up our fans. The juice thing, people are asking at the end of it, Sterling calling Celtic Park a shithole. See all that garbage that you say, what a crap. I think in some respects it goes a long way. It's a certain level of arrogance and swagger that creeps into your head. And I think that Celtic have been too nice for too long. Yeah. And that's partly why Rangers beat us, because they had that basic fire edge that we don't.
Aye, listen, Barry got them up for it. He did. He got them. They wanted it more. You seen that in the first half. Celtic came out. Rangers had played 120 minutes on the Thursday night. You'd think it was Celtic. If you watch that first half back, you'd think Celtic were the ones that were playing on the Thursday night and had just run all that kind of mileage. We looked so poor. We really did. They came out of the traps. A lot of folks saying it's a dead rubber and whatever. Listen, there's no dead rubbers when you're playing them. I want to bury them every time I play them. I really do. I want to demolish them. Coming out of the game, I was gutted. We pulled ourselves back into it, but like you said, the play acting and the taking their time on the ball, and I mean, Butland in the first half probably wasted about maybe 5-6 minutes with goal kicks. He just, every time we get the ball, he was standing there for about 30 to 40 seconds. The referee never intervened with any of that kind of stuff. Every time they went down or they had a free kick, again, there was about 20 seconds wasted. There was so much time wasted. Rangers slowed the game right down and didn't allow Celtic to get into a rhythm. And we're very much a rhythm team. We're very much a team that once we get up into that gear, we just keep going and going and going and motoring. And you notice that when we come out of the second half. We come out of the second half and we were able to dictate the pace, and then obviously got our 2 goals. And I think then we were kind of unlucky, obviously, near the end. But it was a game where I think Brendan always goes on about the mentality. And I think the mentality of that game was that Rangers were more up for it than what we were. I think some of your players might have thought it was a dead rubber. I think some of them would have been...
So Paddy, see with this is what I'm concerned. I don't listen, again, for the avoidance of doubt, right? Would I rather be winning titles? Absolutely, right? Again, I'm going to ask this question because I've been racking my brains. I actually meant to be sad and do the wee bit of homework on it, right? See, regardless, we're 13 points clear. We will. And avoiding some completely ridiculous, unimaginable and highly unlikely capitulation, which just isn't going to happen, right? The league's done, right? And we're more than likely going to go on and get that treble. And when all said and done, the history book show and the picture show, that's all we will remember, right? Yes. However, I am still genuinely concerned that the past 3 games that we have started to really look shaky, and they seem to have found their number. They found out how to play against us. They've scored 9 goals against us, and undoubtedly they have looked better than us, including in a game where, you know, they'd played 120 minutes and penalties midweek. Now, I said when we done the post show that I believe that Celtic partly get into it, one, because we started trying to play football, but a lot of it to do with them being really, really tired. Now, we and Joe came on, we said at the start, Celtic need to do what Rangers done, 2-0, half-time lead, force them into early changes because then they're done. The guys who they bring on will be on at the earliest possible juncture. They'll be tired as well, and we might be able to steal it through fitness, blah, blah, blah. Didn't pan out that way. They were able to hold on to their substitutions to late on when we had fuck all to bring on, and they got and did on it, and it made a difference, and we paid the price for it. Now, my concern is, mate, looking at that game at Ibrox, I don't care. People say, bad day at the office, mate. It's 3 bad days at the office now, and I'm concerned, genuinely, get into that game. I don't want to get beat. I don't want even a draw. We need to win that. Nothing other than a win is acceptable at that game at Ibrox. Now, here's the thing that I am worried about, mate. If you want to use that term, folks say that's extreme, right? But I don't think in the past 30 years, maybe somebody can tell me if I'm wrong here, I don't think that there's ever been an occasion where the league has been won, whether it's been Celtic or Rangers, and the team that have won that league have had the worst of the head-to-head record. I don't think it's happened, and I don't want it to start happening with us.
Yeah. Somebody had said that to me, Steve, where they'd said, would you rather lose the league and win every single Glasgow derby, or would you rather win the league and lose them all? Obviously, I'd rather win the league and lose all of the derbies, but you don't want to lose these games. It's one of the games that you go into and you get the bragging rights, and we've all got Rangers fans.
And listen, we laugh at that bragging rights part, we laugh at it, but as we say, it still is important. Every game It's about that. That's what you pay for your season ticket money for. Those 2 games at Celtic Park against Rangers. That's one of the main reasons why you're paying your money. That's the one that you want to be entertained. You want to lord it over them, and you want a performance. And to be honest, what we get served up was absolute dross.
Yeah, no, it was poor. There's a lot of people obviously saying that the Callum McGregor situation with Callum being missing in the middle of the park really made us struggle. Callum's not been up to his usual standard the last wee while. I think he's lacked a bit of fitness. Obviously, he's been carrying a wee niggle or whatever, but I think in these kind of games, it does seem to drag players back up when the heads go down. I think he would have made a difference. I think obviously Luke McCown, we spoke about him. I think that was a chance for Luke McCown to prove himself in a Celtic shirt, and I don't think he did. I don't think he done himself justice. But listen, yes, it was a bad day at the office, but I think they wanted it more, and it's something that I think we will really bounce back from.
To wrap this up, Paddy, I've been racking my brains right now. Listen, this isn't a crisis. It's far from a crisis. This isn't. There's work to be done, is what I'm saying, right? But that cloak of invincibility around Brendan Rodgers is slowly peeled back right now. Listen, I believe Brendan Rodgers is a fantastic manager, an elite level manager, the best possible manager that we could have in situ, undoubtedly. Best manager in the league and all that kind of stuff. Celtic, in my opinion, and Brendan Rodgers, more to the point, needs to adapt. I came on with you and I says on the post-match that I felt that complacency and arrogance had creeped into the manager and it creeped into the players, right? I never want to think that, but I can't help but think that. Why? Because when we look at it, he adapted for Europe because he knew this season that he can't trap up and play the same football against every team and expect the same result. Why don't we do that in the domestic league? And that, for me, is I believe at least it's because we're arrogant. We're better than them. We've got better players. We've got this. We've got better tactics. We can just turn up and, as we say, play our football and it'll happen.
Yeah,
we've seen it. Teams are starting to, despite how much we're cruising this league, teams are finding out how to play against us. It took Lord Voldemort a couple of times to suss us out. Now, I know you can say we didn't turn up but it doesn't matter. We did turn up because we had 11 guys in the pitch, remember?
Yeah.
They outplayed us. He sussed us out and found a way to beat us. Barry Backpass watched tapes and found a way to beat us despite playing 120 minutes. Yeah. Cast your mind back. Stevie G eventually worked out how to beat Brendan Rodgers' team. And that just concerns me. That's the only concern or annoyance or gripe I've got with Brendan at this moment in time is he needs to adapt. He needs to adapt for the league as well. You can't just trap up and play your football. I know the league isn't of the same standard. It's miles off for the Champions League. But why not? Why do that and recognise that when you go into European that different teams play different and there's different expectancies, but different ways that we'll need to pick them off. Why do it there but never do it in the domestic league? Because the reality is again, and this is me just broadly speaking, you can only beat who's put in front of you. And I love it. Thanks, Brendan. Great memories. But see, we actually look back at who he's beat as managers and we go, oh God, another one onto the mantelpiece. It's all been shit managers.
Yeah, listen, I understand that and I get it. You look at what Barry Ferguson has done. He came in there and he's changed the formation. What's he got now? A 3-5-4-5-2 or something? I'm not
7-8-2-4-1.
Aye. Listen, we had it before. We used to talk about it with Ange. Ange had a plan A and his plan B was do plan A better. I don't want that to nip in here with Brendan. We adapted, like you said, we adapted our game in the Champions League. We've seen how bad we were against Dortmund. And then we went into the game against Atalanta and we didn't change our formation, but we changed the way we played. We changed the mentality, the way we approached the game. And we got a better result.
And to jump in, sorry, this is what Typhoon's saying, and it's so clear when I watched it back. Seeing the teams that have got purchased, I get Rangers the twice that have done it. What did they do? press you high, force you, make you feel uncomfortable, and we kind of wilt when it happens. And that's what's concerning me. The manager really has to get back to basics. I want Celtic to get back to basics at the turn of next season and treat it as if you are the wolf climbing the hill. Because I do genuinely believe that there's an element of complacency. And as I say, I'm basing that simply on the fact that we never adapt and we never change. Now, maybe he doesn't have or doesn't feel that he's got the personnel to do radical formation changes and then as a result, adapt and change game to game to game. If that's the case, get the money out board, give him what he needs so that he can have options. But I'm just surprised that we haven't done it. And I tell you what, we're going to have to do it at Ibrox. We're going to have to think of something different, mate.
Aye. No, I think we will. I think when it comes to that game, Brendan will adapt. I think we'll come at that with a different approach. I think he has to. So, listen, it's just a matter of waiting and seeing. Trust in the process, isn't it? Trust the manager. Like you said, he's the best option that Celtic have. He's an incredible manager. He's done some incredible things. He gets the best out of a lot of players. I just think at this point in time, I think the players know that the league's done and dusted. I think they've kind of settled for that. It's getting that across the line. And that's when you need your winners. That's when you need your players that have been in there and done it before. Your Callum McGregors, your James Forrests, your even Kasper Schmeichel, an experienced player. You need these guys in there to drag the team across the line. So the international breaks come at the right time for me. We've said it so many times. It's a decent time for us. We'll be rested. When the league comes back around, we will get the job done.
100%. And just to finish up, there's a couple of folk were asking, we spoke about the things, there's been variation in the team and questioning what the manager's not done, he's not adapted, he's not changed. Liam Greenlaw, what a top guy, by the way. Make sure you check him out. Boise Bus Friday, he'll be on there with Phil, top man. And he's asked, you've got to wonder, what did the manager no see in Nawrocki? A lot has been said about him off the back of that, mate. I think it's easy to slate a guy and turn around and say you were part of a team that were flapping about and conceded 3 goals. But in terms of, they had these moments, but I'd say 8 out of 10 times when there was a defensive covering tackle we made or something to do, he chipped in, mate.
He put himself about. Are we
going to have to see more in Nawrocki? That's what I'm basically getting at. Do we need to at least give this guy son a chance? Because we've wheeled him out twice for games against Rangers and he's been decent.
Aye. The one he cleared off the line was pretty decent. He won a few balls in the air, a few aerial challenges and stuff. I think he was out of position a couple of times and I don't think he pressed fast enough. But for me, I think he needs more time under his belt, whether that's be reserve games or whatever. I think coming around, obviously, we're going to be getting into the split. We'll have the league done and dusted pretty sharpish. And then it's time when you can give these guys a chance. You can put in your Luke McCowan and your Nawrocki and some of the kind of younger guys, obviously young Dane Murray as well. And who's the Francis Torley, guys like this. Give them a bit of time.
Well. Young guys
Bonner as well. You looked at our bench on Sunday there as well, and it was full of the youth. It was just a lot of young guys. Do you know what I mean? The most experienced player on our bench was probably Yang, and it's kind of hard to see. I was
speaking to one of my mates, and I says to him, the bench was thin. He says to me, thin. It was fucking anorexic.
It was, mate.
It was terrible fucking options, man. It was absolutely rough. But look,
fingers crossed.
We dust ourselves down here. Plenty we've spoke about, mate. You feeling any better? You've got all off your chest now.
Aye, that's half the chest. Just hopefully we can all recover now. Hopefully Daizen recovers and hopefully Trusty recovers. And Ryan's saying there as well, the bench gave me the fear right away. It did, mate. Yeah, it really did. Parkhead boy saying about Yang. Listen, when Yang come on, mate, he was good.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Byron, that's his son that went under my radar that I saw. A man had a honking tackle on him, by the way. It was a straight legger onto the shins.
Oh, really? I don't even see it.
Nothing came round about that. Aye, nothing. No, none of this. None of that. But aye, there you go. But plenty to talk about. Anyway, listen, thanks to every single person for joining us. I really enjoyed this one. Just says, getting into some of that sort of nitty gritty stuff that we don't want to do. But listen, thanks to everybody for giving us your opinions on it. Says, listen, we'll see how this one pans out. International break, the smoke will hopefully settle down. But one thing I do want to hear and see is I want to hear clarification and clear communication from the board, answering fan concerns, and even giving us a wee report or something. What was the fan liaison officer's observations? What was the takeaways? Was there any learning points? And again, we can always say flippantly the learning points are just don't fucking have that in place. But there's got to be some way, as we say, is to try and make this thing a wee bit better, because we can't keep on having this happening. And the last thing we want to see is further disruption between the fan base and the board, because even though the police are the ones on the ground that were involved in it, there's still a strong feeling that the board are partly involved in it, but kidding on they're not. So I think it's important for the board to give us a wee bit of clarity, mate, is it no?
Yeah, of course it is. Something needs to be released. A show of solidarity with the Green Brigade as well, I think would be quite good. Obviously, get them back on side and say, listen, yes, I believe your treatment was slightly unfair. But yeah, like you said, it's coming down to compliance. It's coming down to a lot of other things. So yeah, we'll wait and see what comes for the club. We'll wait and see what happens with Cherny. Hopefully he gets 6 months or something like that. Get him in jail.
I tell you what, as I say, jokes aside, but I would be interested to see what and we've heard nothing of it, so I don't think anything would happen. But I do still genuinely believe that there needs to be some level of league body involvement with that one, because as we says, whether you think it's petulant or sour grapes or clutching at straws, the reality is players on the pitch have got to conduct themselves in a certain way, and it could have caused severe problems. It didn't, thankfully, but it could have. And you can't basically wave that one on, because then it becomes the norm. You set a precedence for that.
The thing is, I mean, people in any job, Steve, have got to conduct themselves in that kind of manner. Even environment I work in, if I had to do that to somebody, if I had to just walk up to somebody and spray water on their face, they'd probably get punted. They'd probably get sacked. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's something there.
They take you on the platform and just chuck you off the end of the rig.
Probably, aye. That's what we do. We just chop them up, stick them in the freezer. You know what I mean? That's different world out there, pal.
Well, anyway, listen, thanks to every single one of you for watching it. Really, really appreciate that. Really appreciate the support. I'll be back. I've got a wee early one that I'm doing on Thursday morning, 11 o'clock. Look out for that one. I'll be popping up and doing that. And then, of course, it's international break. So if it's a wee bit thin on the ground. In fact, you know what? Paddy, we're not going to go yet. I just want to quickly chuck this at you. Ready for it? Kalidou Sidibe, League 2, French, 26-year-old defensive midfielder. I don't know if I'm saying this right. League 2.
6'6".
6'6". Played previous at Toulouse, 2 seasons, one in League 1. 128 lifetime appearances, 12 goals, 11 assists. 1.7 million. Does that give you a fancy a wee tickle?
Do you know what it looks like, mate? It's another Wanyama, isn't it? It looks to me like a
roll with the dice on a big strong guy.
For me, that's what Celtic need in there. I mean, you look at that squad and you look at what we were playing against the baddies, and you've got Luke McCowan, Rio Hatate, and Ali Engels. Now, Hatate's probably the strongest out of the three. He's probably the broadest, the kind of bulkier player. He's not the tallest. There's not one of the guys over 6 foot. So for me to have that big unit of a guy in there, like I said, a Wanyama type player, sounds pretty decent.
All I'm going to say is, hopefully, if there is any interest in it, we're not filing that one under Abelgard, because remember, big, strong defensive midfielder, and was absolutely maniaca. So anyway, that was just to throw that one out there, just to be curveball in. But listen, we are done now. We're almost an hour and a half. Thanks to everybody for doing it. Remember, before you head off, hit that subscribe, hit the thumbs up, support CWO. Paddy, come the end of this month, we're going to be a year in business. Hey!
Need to do a giveaway. For that.
We'll do something for that. We'll get a wee bit of a giveaway in there for you. So anyway, listen, thanks to everybody for getting involved. Take care of yourselves, and we'll be back in due course. So until then, Paddy, what are you doing today? Tell them.
Hail, guys.
Hail. See you later.